We've got a question that was submitted to us, which I think is a really great question. So it's owners undertaking repairs to common property, Rod. And we had the question submitted from Jen, and Jen says, we live in a small townhouse style complex of 5 units where each owner has a footprint on the ground and a roof above. Recently, one of our owners was up on the roof. Apparently he and one of the other owners had experienced some leaks. He had been to Bunnings and was repairing the roof himself. The building is 3 levels high. When I tried to explain that I'm uncomfortable with unlicensed people doing repairs, he dismissed me and said he wasn't repairing my unit's roof and it would save us all money. I was accused of being over bureaucratic and that because he was being careful, there was no risk of an accident. I tried to explain to him that it isn't his roof to mend and that he is not insured for any accident or the owner's corporation for poor workmanship. I'm the chair. Because there are only 5 owners, it makes it difficult for me because I also need to maintain good relationships with my neighbours who already dismiss strata regulations as nitpicking. What is the law on this and any suggestions on how best to handle it? And I think it's a fairly complicated question, Rod, so I'll pass over to you.
So I'm going to go down a train, and if I'm off track, apologies. But my first question is, do you have a strata manager? Because your comments are spot on, but in a small block of 5, I don't think it should be you, Jen, that is firing the bullets. I think it should be the strata manager that's having the awkward but necessary conversation with the well-intentioned person who's climbing up a roof. So I spoke to one of my builders about heights, working at heights, what the minimum height is for a ladder before you need a cherry picker or a scaffold or something like that. And he said to me that if the ladder's long enough, you can use it based on what he researched. However, my research from Safe Work is that 2 meters is about the right height. My point is this, that it can be quite, I guess it changes a lot from Safe Work, and these sort of works require a Safe Work method statement. You also need someone that's experienced with working on roofs. So it is very risky. I'll use a live example, and it's a sad example at one of my buildings that was doing an external paint job. So there was a man who was given ground duties on the painting team to do work, and he was up a ladder. He had undisclosed diabetes to his employer. He was up a ladder he wasn't meant to be. He fell off and he had an injury and he died. Now that's always stuck with me. It's so sad. He had a family. It was very tragic. The employer still got a fine of $150,000 from work cover because someone died on their site. So that's a real example, and I lived through that. So it's terrible. So someone that's not a skilled trade, haven't tried, well-intentioned, it just shouldn't happen with complex work such as going onto a roof. So whenever people think of their strata lot as their home, which is a beautiful thing. However, common property, you've got the responsibility to the other owners. So what I strongly suggest is employ a licensed insured trade who's experienced with working on roofs to fix your roof, even if it costs a few $100s, because the risk is just absolutely massive should there be an accident. So I know I spoke the long way around. It's just such a risky area. So owners doing bits and pieces. I think I mentioned to you before, Nikki, only last week, one of my clients, the building's called Radius, and the R dropped off the building. So they said to me, oh, Rod, I'm going to go and buy another R and put it back on and you can reimburse us. Now, that is an extremely low risk job, just whacking an R on a wall. So that sort of thing. Some strata managers say, no, we take a more realistic view on that, but high risk work such as working on a roof is just too risky, so stay clear. If you've got a strata manager, they should be having the awkward but necessary conversation. If you don't, I would just, I wouldn't do it alone. I'll perhaps do it with the rest of the committee and just say, look, I want to talk about this. I really am concerned, and handle it that way. So it's not just you versus him.
Okay, that's great. And one of the other things I think that I was highlighted to when I read the question, is the fact that he mentions that he's working on his own unit's roof. And I know you did mention that quickly there, but would you just like to cover that a little bit too, right? Is it his roof that he's working on, or?
No, it's not. You're spot on, Nikki. It's common property. So everyone's entitled to, everyone is required to pay for the roof under the Strata Schemes Management because it's common property. So it comes through the Strata Schemes Owners Corporation's funds. So it's not his roof, it's everyone's roof. That being said, it's required to be fixed. Just get a professional.
Okay, that's great. And also the other thing that sort of piqued my interest was the fact that the person who wrote in is the chair in the building. It's a small scheme, but they're also a neighbour in the building. So obviously they're having a challenge with both of those hats. And so do you have any advice for how to be the chair and run a scheme, but also be a neighbour and have a good association with your neighbours in the building?
I think just having an honest and friendly conversation. If you go in combative, these are obviously can-do people that want to fix things, that want to be helpful. However, the risk is too high, so I would just do it. The first step would be, if you've got a strata manager, the strata manager should be the one that has the conversation. If not, I would just have an open, honest conversation about it and say that we need to protect everyone's, and we need to protect our building, our insurance, and our safety obligations. So we can't have that happening. I'm just too concerned, and rightly so.
Excellent. That's some really great advice. Thanks, Rod.